and welcome to this edition of Counselor's Corner. With this edition, we are going to be looking at the fifth and the last of the 5 temperaments. So far, we've looked at the first 4. We looked at the choleric, we looked at the melancholy, we looked at the phlegmatic, and last time we looked at the sanguine. Well, there is a 5th temperament, and it's known as the supine. And what I'm going to do in this particular video, as I've done with the other ones, is just give you an overview of what the supine personality, or the temperament, in fact, is. And we're going to be getting into more detail as we go along. But I want to share with you 7 strengths and 7 weaknesses that are found within the supine temperament. Now, please understand, as I've said before, all of these occur only if you are what's known as a pure supine. Most of us are a combination of 2 or more temperaments. For myself personally, I'm a combination of melancholy and phlegmatic for myself. But to start off these series of videos, I wanted to show you what each one looks in its pure state. And as we move forward, we will be looking at blends. So let's just dive right in here. For the supine personality, here's some of the strengths that we have here. Number 1, the supine has a great capacity and desire to serve others. Not every temperament has that. If you have that desire that you just love being a servant and serving others, and that's a big part of you, it's very possible that you have a supine temperament. A supine is also dependable. A supine is someone that you could call up or ask to do something, and they'll be right there, and you can count on them. If they say something's going to get done, something will get done. Also, the supine, of all the temperaments, they're absolutely loyal. So if you get involved with a supine, whether they're a friend or a relationship, they will be loyal to you because that's just how God made them in their temperament. They're very open emotionally. There's a couple of temperaments, particularly the melancholy, that tend to be closed off. We tend to be a little, it's hard to express ourselves emotionally and to give to a relationship. There are some temperaments that are more closed off and have walls above them and around them. But the supine will open up emotionally. You can get to know them. They want to know you. Also, a supine is capable of committing to a deep personal relationship. Again, this is something that happens if it's a pure supine temperament. You can commit yourself to a deep relationship. Have you ever been in a relationship where you can actually commit yourself to someone? You can be loyal to them. You're open to them emotionally. And you genuinely love being in that relationship. Chances are you have some supine temperament in you. If not a pure supine, at least you have a part of it. And also, a supine, they generally like people. I mean, generally like people. They don't put any false fronts on. If they like you for who you are. They just want to be a genuine friend. You can be a genuine friend to them. And a supine is also very humble, very humble. Not every temperament's like that. We all know some people that are kind of egotistical. They're kind of boastful. That is not what a supine is. A supine is very humble, very meek. Now, there's some of the strengths that you have, and you may recognize some of these in yourself if you happen to be of the supine temperament. But then there's what's known as weaknesses, and I want to make this clear. When we talk about weaknesses, yes, you will look at them, and they may be in the negative context. And one of the things that we work with you through the temperament therapy is to take these weaknesses and make strengths out of them, to understand why God made you the way that he did, and then to take the strengths and embellish them, but also take the weaknesses and make them work for something good. The more you understand your temperament, the more you understand how God made you, the more you can deal with yourself, the world around you, your relationships, your jobs, how you are interacting with other people. It affects every area of your life. So let's go through very quickly what some of these weaknesses are. A weakness of the supine is they have a high fear of rejection. You see, because they are so loving and giving, and because they're so open and they can commit to a relationship, they also have a giant fear of being rejected. We have to be very careful around a supine temperament. They have weak willpower. Weak willpower. They can just give in to things. Sometimes they can be manipulated. We have to be very careful about that because their willpower is weak. And they have the inability to initiate love and affection. Now, I want you to understand what that means. Because they generally like people and they can commit themselves to a relationship, they also are not the ones to make the first move. They have an inability for love and affection. We have to approach a supine. A supine is not so outgoing where they're going to approach someone else. But once you're in a relationship with a supine, it's going to be a solid one, an honest one, a dependable one. Now, here is a weakness that the supines have. They expect other people to read their minds. So suppose you run into a supine the same way that if you need to approach a supine for a relationship or a friendship or to ask a favor, we need to do the approaching of the supine, and they expect us to already know what's on their minds. It sounds irrational, but it is part of their temperament. They, let's see, they suffer from neurotic behavior. Now that can be damaging in some way, but we can turn that around and we can work with that. A neurotic behavior, you think of one thing that the worst is going to happen in something else. And because they have weak willpower, because they have a high fear of rejection, they tend to build things up in their mind. And so things are not always what they seem to be. So they have what's known as neurotic behavior. Here's another thing. They tend to harbor anger as hurt feelings. There are some temperaments that if they're angry, they'll express their anger. You'll know that they're angry. They're not hiding behind anything. But with a supine, you see, it comes out as, my feelings are hurt. You hurt my feelings. When really, in reality, what they're feeling is anger towards you or towards a situation. But they mask it as hurt feelings because of the way that they're put together in a temperament-wise. Because they have weak willpower, they're not an explosive kind of temperament where they're just going to shout out in anger, but they're going to mask it as hurt feelings. And the last thing that I want to say is that the supine has a tendency to feel powerless, because they have a weak willpower, and because they expect other people to read their minds, and because they have a high fear of rejection, they also have a tendency to feel powerless. Now, again, when we're looking at some of these weaknesses here, that does not mean that they're always weaknesses in a negative capability or a negative standpoint. I mean, it may be a point where we can look at some of these weaknesses as we're going through temperament therapy and find out how we can use them for good, for the better good. And so that's what I just wanted to share with you about the supine. Now, what we're going to be doing in the future is we'll be looking at different blends, of course, between the temperaments. But the next Counselor's Corner is going to be more like a workshop. It's going to be more extended. I'm going to answer the question, what is the difference between temperament and personality? What is the difference between temperament, personality, and character? Because they're three different things. A lot of people don't understand that temperament is something very different. It's not our personality. It's not our characteristics. It's not how we live our life from day to day. Temperament is how God made us. And so in our next Counselor's Corner, we're going to expand this out a little bit, and we're going to make sure that you have a good understanding of that. But for right now, I just want to let you know that we are at livinginharmonyministries.org, livinginharmonyministries.org. We are a Christian counseling service. I am available for Christian counseling, for biblical counseling. Temperament counseling is what I specialize in, premarital counseling, etc. If we can help you, please stop by and see our website, livinginharmonyministries.org. I am taking on clients. I do have time in my schedule, and I do have some slots open if you need some kind of counseling. If you want to find out what your temperament is, if you want to find out how God made you, go to our website. There's a whole section there about temperament. We can get you arranged and set an appointment time and work with you through some therapy. And there's many other things on that website as well. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes here in this Counselor's Corner tonight as we looked at the fifth temperament called the supine. And please feel free to stop by and see us, livinginharmonyministries.org, livinginharmonyministries.org. Thanks for watching. God bless you.